Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Bikini TV. I am in the great presence of one of the hardest workers in the IFBB today. Needs no introduction, but Lana the Machine, El
Oh
Machine
my
Lana.
gosh. Thank you,
So
Adam.
13 shows and the Olympia, 14 total shows from December to December. We're trying to figure out the actual number to give her. And
Right.
yeah, so what's funny is this interview was viewer requested. We had more for you than pretty much anyone. Yeah, I mean, besides like a judge, Sandy and Tyler had a
Right.
lot of tours too, which I was supposed to set
Yes.
one up with her for a while, but I just haven't done it yet. But yeah, you're one of the fan favorites. So
That's awesome. I definitely felt like that support throughout this past, 12 months, 16 months. I felt like the energy, I would get so many messages like, keep going, you got this, you're an inspiration, you got it. And so I feel the love. I feel like I'm like the people's choice, you know?
if there was a people, you might have been in it. You might have been if there's like a people. Why don't they have that in Bikini? And you have another
There
fan.
should
You have
be.
another fan down here.
Oh no.
She's she doesn't.
Is she
I think
growling
she's
still?
jealous of you. Yeah. Where's she at?
Oh, she probably can sense I have dogs here too.
She's never barked. So they have a brand new puppy. I don't think she ran her. She's barking at your TV, like you're on the
Oh,
TV behind me, and she's like looking
yeah.
at you behind me,
She's
like
staring at me.
and barking at you. It's so
Poor
funny.
baby. I wish I could give her booty scratches so she knows I'm nice.
That's pretty funny. So anyway, let's give us a little history lesson for about you. Tell us about how this all got started for you and kind of get it going from there. What I like to do with these podcasts is always look at them and say, how will it help someone who's going through what you're going through right now? And I think you have a really good
Right.
story, so I'm really glad that you're on here.
Yeah.
So
I
a
think,
little breakdown of how you got started.
sure. So I kind of have a different story, which I agree with you. I think it could be helpful for some people because I'm 30 years now, and I was 21 is actually when I first got started in bodybuilding. I was an athlete like many bodybuilders were before and just needed something to do. So I started lifting weights and did a local show and got into the NPC circuit and all those good things. Had a couple overalls and didn't have money to go to the first national that I wanted to go to. So took some time and went to the following national and I just did terrible. Nobody noticed me, last call outs. And then I kind of just like closed the door to competing. I was like 22, 23 and starting my career as a teacher. So I closed the door and 7, 8, on the cusp of 8 years goes by. And I kind of came back thanks to COVID. I couldn't travel anymore or do anything of those like other life goals that we had. So I came back to competing. And for the past year and a half, I have been competing in the NPC, got my pro card and a full year of pro shows, and we made it to the Olympia. So
Yeah, that's
that's where I am now. So,
pretty crazy. There's a lot to unpack there. You cut out
right.
when you said I think you said you're 30, but you cut out. Did you say 30 or
Yes, I'm 30. Yeah, I turned
30
30
even?
this
Okay.
past year.
Okay, it cut out when you
Yeah,
said that. So I want to make sure the viewers, because a lot of people are going to be listening to this. So I think
right.
one thing I think that's we can jump right into right away because a lot of people, when Jennifer won and Issa won, it was like really young girls were winning. It was like they're like 24, 25 when they won, and everyone's like, oh, I think I'm a little bit too old to start or whatever. Like these will be people that are like 40 years old. I think one thing to go
Right.
into right away, 30 is super young still. So I'm not even really bringing that into the conversation, but um, we don't know it's really important. Every sport you kind of see for a long time, for like years go on, like boxing, like guys tend to peak at like 32 years old. Bodybuilding, it tends to be in the mid 40s where guys are still doing good, but then they start losing their legs. Bikini, we don't know. And so really cool that you're like basically getting started at 30 and you made it to the
Right.
Olympia, and I think that
Yeah.
that's awesome for people to hear that too. And I think people who are 40, women who are 40 especially, need to understand in Bikini, we don't know what that age is where someone ages out because no top girl has ever aged out yet. You could see like some of these bodybuilders where their legs start going when they hit their later
Right.
40s, and you're like, yeah, it's just he can't hold his legs anymore. It's getting a little too old for it. But no one's left Bikini who's been competitive.
Right.
They've like had kids, started families, got married, just lost interest, but no one's like, oh, you have to leave because you're not doing good due to that your age, right? Type of thing. So So one thing that right off the bat, I love that you're getting started at 30, because even girls that are 30 are like, I think I'm getting started too late. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like,
Right. You're like,
that's
no.
not even close. Like, we don't even know when that age is. And I know it's not even close to that. I'll tell you that. So,
Right.
so awesome that you got started then. Cause I'm seeing, especially when, Issa and Jennifer are winning, you're getting a lot of that. Oh, it's like a younger girl thing. I'm like, no, like
Right.
the girl Angelica, the year Angelica won, 3 of the top 5 were over their 30s, or in their 30s or over.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next year,
Yeah.
Janet won, who was 31, I think, when she won. So 30 or 31. So
Right.
it's like, yeah. So
It's so true.
got a ton of time, ton of time. So I like to bring that up. And then also, yeah. So how did it start with COVID? I don't understand how it all got started with
Okay, so
that.
right. So like in those years that I was off or not competing, just different life things were happening. Like I was traveling, got married, got a dog, got a house, like all these things that kind of like took up my energy and my time and just didn't let me think about the stage. But then when COVID happened and the world got shut down, me and my husband were home for months and months. We started buying gym equipment so that we could work out from home because we always worked out and we always lifted weights. Like that is our lifestyle, just no competitions. And so when we couldn't travel anymore, really do anything, we were like, hey, like let's see if we've still got it. Let's see if we have that competitive streak, if we can push ourselves mentally and physically. And we just started training and, macro counting and cutting and preparing for a show. And because we had nothing else to do, like to distract us from it. So it kind of like brought us back.
That's cool. Yeah. I think everyone has
Yeah.
their like gym COVID stories, right?
Yeah.
I have some really, to be honest, I have some really, really bad memories from COVID, but then I have
Oh
some really, really
no.
good ones.
Yeah.
The bad ones were when like the cops came to the gym, right? And were like trying to shut us down. And then the good ones were,
Tell
we
you
had
you
like,
couldn't be open.
yeah, but you know what? I was pretty rebellious, and we fought it, and they ended up leaving me alone. Which was kind of
Oh,
crazy
good.
that they let us. Yeah, I pulled that one off. I don't, I was like,
Yeah.
I was fighting for it, and I was like, we're staying open. Good luck, And so, we ended up like playing the rules and had physical therapist and doctor. We like hired and brought them in to the gym.
Smart.
And so we kind of were essentially, they were essential, but the gym being open wasn't. So it was kind of hard to monitor who was doing what. So then the city just left us
Gotcha.
alone. Yeah. So it was like, I was
Yeah.
like, well, I'm not the one to have to prove anything. So you guys are have to prove that I'm not doing it. You're not allowed in the building. So it was, it was one of those things. So it was kind of crazy. So we had, our gym was actually like, kind of like, it was kind of like, I would imagine how like prohibition was, and you had these like speakeasies.
Yes.
Our gym was like a
That's awesome.
speakeasy gym. So we knew
That should
that
be a thing.
it should be a thing.
You have to knock on the door to get in, like,
So we had yeah, no, we had like full on like before 8 o'clock. Everyone had to work out like at 6, because that's when like they were doing their checks, was like 8 or 9. So everyone had to get there
yeah.
like at 6. And there were some points where I was like, you guys are crazy. There's like 40 people in this like 1,800 square foot gym like downstairs. I don't know, it must have been 2,500 square feet, something like that.
Yeah.
And they were just having like parties with the same people. And we are like, hey, the rules are, if you feel even a little bit sick, you don't come here. And the whole time,
Right.
no one got it during those periods, which is crazy. I don't know. Yeah, it was crazy. No one got it. And I was like, okay, if someone gets it, like this is pretty big, like,
Right.
liability type of things. At that time, we
Right.
all thought everyone was going to die from it. And then
Yeah.
so they were having COVID parts. They're like shooting video and sending it to me. They're like, come down, bro. And I was like, I'm not waking up at 6. I got the gym to myself at any time I want. It was pretty
Yeah.
fun. So
You're like, I'm good,
were
guys.
there were some good times with it. And then because of COVID, we ended up in Vegas. So like it's
Yeah.
a lot of good happened from it, but a lot of bad happened from it too.
I think it was like such a transitional time for everybody. You figured out stuff about yourself, not only like your values and your beliefs, but like maybe you switched gears of where you were headed in life. Like I know me being a teacher, I was really scared being a teacher and having to deal with all of this stuff going on with COVID, like worried if I'd have a job or not. And
Yeah.
like you literally moved, you
Yeah.
know, during time and it's crazy.
Yeah. And that's why Ashley moved too
It
from.
had its good and its bad.
Yeah, you had to look for the light in it, right? It was, but yeah, that was a tough
Right.
tough year really. And then after that, it was like, but because
Right.
California was on such tough lockdown, that's why Ashley moved
Mhm.
here. And then when Ashley moved here, this building popped up, and I ended up buying it for like 40 cents on the dollar, because the company,
Gosh,
it was crazy. The deal I got in
that's
this
crazy.
building was lower than the cost of my house that I have down the street. I had to put a lot of money into it, but I bought it for about 40 cents on the
Right.
dollar because the company that owned this building, this gym,
Mm-hmm.
they had a bunch of gyms, a bunch of not gyms, bunch of big commercial properties, but no one was paying rent at those commercial properties because no one was going
Oh,
to the office. So they're just like,
right.
we just need to get this property to just keep us afloat and we'll just sell it. And I
Sure.
offered them a crazy deal and I didn't think they're going to say yes. And they did. And I was like, oh gosh, I guess I own this building in Vegas now.
Yeah.
So it's
So
like,
was that your push then to move because you got the purchase of the building?
that, and then it was that. And then it was in Denver, it's a lot different in terms of like how they treat businesses too. So basically,
Mm.
it's like it's like becoming like a mini California. So my taxes on my
Oh,
building, so I don't make any money on the building itself. So like
right.
on memberships, we have no memberships here. We have nothing. So there's no profit in this gym. It's just a pure expense. So you have to be
Sure.
smart with it. So
Mm-hmm.
when I first bought the building, it was like $5,600 a year in property tax, which is fine in Denver. But then when I was leaving,
Mm-hmm.
they were trying to raise it to 22,000, and I was like, dude, I don't make any money here. Like it's, and then then they kept coming to my gym, and then when there was like riots, they weren't protecting the businesses, and so, but in Vegas, they don't deal with that. Like as soon as the riots started in Vegas, they're like, no, that's not going to happen here. So
Yeah.
it didn't get out of control. So that was like the main reasons was like, okay, the same year you told me I can't be in business is the same year you didn't protect my
Right.
business is the same year you tried to tax me 3 times as much for having a business. So yeah, I'm out. That's you pushed me too far.
Yeah, definitely. Oh my
So
gosh, you're so smart for leaving then.
yeah, it's unfortunate because I miss Denver a lot, but you know how it is. You got to do what's best for you. You
Yeah.
know, that's I do miss it a lot there though. So anyway,
We've
but
thought many of times of leaving California, but our family is what keeps us here.
it's tough. My family's there too. Yeah, my mom and
Yeah.
sister are there too. My nephews and nieces, they're all in Orange County now. So what
Oh,
part of
nice.
California you in?
So we're in Northern California. It's called Chico. It's
Oh yeah, I know
basically just a
Chico.
college town. It's very rural, farms, not super a lot going on up here, but it's pretty and you can, buy a house like way more affordable for California anyway. So,
Yeah, that's cool. Okay, so we got to the story. You came here because of COVID. You started getting, your workout equipment and all that stuff, which is a funny story because do you remember how hard it was to get workout equipment during that time? There,
it was impossible.
it was so funny because so we moved our gym from here from Denver to here and we had some extra equipment and I like because the spacing was different. So I had to like sell
Mm-hmm.
some of it. And I was getting pricey, like I just put it up and then all of a sudden offers came in literally a day later. And it's funny is Mark Anthony, he told me, he's like,
Oh
just
yeah.
put it on Facebook, like sale on Facebook, right? I was like, all right, whatever. And then people just
Yeah.
started flooding my inbox because there was equipment. I was selling it for more used than I bought it for new. It was
That's
crazy.
amazing.
Yeah. I was like, all right. I was like, this is a whole business model. But so I can't believe you even got any equipment. Okay, so then you go from
Totally.
there and you go to competing. How does that whole transition start?
Yeah. Yeah, so that year of COVID that we were prepping for our show, it got shut down. We were going to do the Motherload show in Reno in May, and the world shut down basically February, March. So Legion Sport Fest, they pushed it back and we're like, okay, keep prepping, we got this. And then they pushed it back again. And I was like, oh my gosh. And this is like my first show in like 7 years. And I was like, I can't take the stress of not knowing the date. Like, this is too much. So I decided to just stop that year of 2020 and kind of like take the voucher. They were like, yeah, come back next year and you can still compete because we'd already paid for it and everything. So 2021 is when I actually stepped on stage after prepping through 2020. So Motherload 2021, my first show back since like 2014, 2015, something like that. It's been a long time. And I'm like, do I still have it? Can I do this? And I go out there and I think I was class F. I'm about 5'6", just under 5'6", and ended up getting first. And then I was like, okay, I still love it. This was an amazing feeling. I'm able to like stick to it mentally and physically, but I know that I can do better with nutrition and my cardio. So right after that show, right after I got first, I went up for the overall, didn't get the overall. I reached out to Paul from Team Pro Physique, and he took me on in my peak week for my very next show, which was the Sacramento show in June. So I got a coach, and he helped me lose like 2 to 3 pounds in that peak week and tighten up. And then I went to my next NPC show where I went up against Ariel Barley,
Oh, wow.
and this was right I know, right? Like right before she turned pro. So she won overall at the Sacramento show in June, and she went to junior nationals right after and got her pro card. And then like 2 pro shows later, she was qualified for Olympia.
Yeah,
So
she
I was like,
exploded on the
dang, I
scene.
went up like, yeah, I was like, I just went up, one of the new hot Olympians, so that was exciting. And then after the Sacramento show in June, I was like, okay, I kind of want to try a national show, haven't done one in such a long time. Like, let's see where I measure up to girls across the United States and see how I hold up, not just in California. So we decided to do Charleston in July, and I ended up getting first call outs, and I was so happy because, mind you, the last time I ever did a national show, I got dead last call outs. So I was very happy with that.
Yeah, that's cool. And I think that's important for people to discuss too. So a couple of things there. One, how is it competing now versus competing then, considering you've been through both?
Right. I don't know if it's just because I'm older or maybe more mature or have more life experience, but back then I kind of took it more as a competitive and like I want to win, I'm gonna win type thing. And now I just feel like I'm just grateful to even be here.
Hmm.
So I don't know if anybody else could say the same too. Like your younger self, I don't know if you're just ultra competitive and you just want to win, win, win. But now I'm just like, even if I lose, I'm still happy.
Yeah, and it's just like making an improvement on yourself because it really is a battle with yourself.
Yeah,
In bikini, you got to be tough.
yeah,
People don't understand it, but it's funny because
right.
it's weird being a guy and like one of the more known guys in the bikini world is like a weird thing to even like say, right? So like you're like, wait a minute, what do you do? Like, yeah,
Yeah,
it's kind of happened, because I started with bodybuilders and then I just kind of ended up working and it ended up just exploding with
right.
bikini. I just figured that out, I just figured that one out so easily, and just went from, training bodybuilders to then one day I did like my first couple of preps and I won like Miss Colorado, like back to back to back. And then everyone was like, yeah, that's the bikini. I was like, I guess
Hmm.
I am. I was like, I don't know. But anyway, it's kind of weird
Yeah.
being in that position. But I get a lot of bodybuilders who will kind of like razz me for it, right? And they'll like make fun of me, whatever, like joke with me. And they're like, because bodybuilders in any class that's more muscular than the class below, they kind of like are like, they're kind of like, oh yeah, you're small compared to us, like type of thing, right?
Yeah.
And so,
Hmm.
figure does it to bikini and women's physique does it to figure and bodybuilding does it to women's bodybuilding does it to women's physique. And
Hmm.
it's like it's kind of one of those things. And the guys are always kind of like, dude, they don't work that hard. And I'm like, dude, they work just as hard. They're just smaller people. They're just smaller muscles in general, but they're working just as hard with relative
Yeah.
weight. But the
Right.
difference of bikini and bodybuilding is mentally it's a totally different game. Like bodybuilding, you can go into a show and know, okay, that guy's going to smash me. Like he's bigger, leaner, more muscular, like more symmetrical. He's going to win. Like there's no doubt about it. And like right
Yeah.
away. But with bikini, you're like, oh, well, maybe my
Yeah.
posing's better than her. Her hair's a little off. Like her suit cut is off. Like I've seen her tan's off today. Good. I can win on this one, right? Like she is
I
leaner than me, but
know.
is she too lean? Is she too lean? Maybe she's too lean today. Like, so there's like all these like
Yeah.
variables. So mentally it's really tough because what got you last call outs could get you first call outs in a few weeks, just with some corrections of things not even related to the body, related to just physical, like how you're posing and how your suit is and all of that.
Yeah.
So, and then the other part of it that I find is really awesome because I don't know if I could do it, to be honest. I competed for many years and I loved it and I was really, really dedicated. But I don't know
Hmm.
if someone were to tell me, okay, hey, get under a glute bridge every other day for basically the rest of your life. Like if I could physically want to do that in the gym for years on end,
Right.
like coaching Ashley for like 5 years now. I'm
Yeah.
like, gosh, she's done glute bridges like every other day. Phoebe, like every other day since I've known them, like 4 years with Phoebe or so. I'm like, what is that
Yep.
accumulative glute bridge sets? Like, what is that? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if I could
Right.
do that. Like, I want to
It
do arms one day. I want to do chest the next day, then back, and then maybe my legs once a week. Like, I don't know. It's a tough mentally. It takes a lot for bikini. I think you guys have hats off to you guys for that.
I could agree with you. Like, yeah, maybe our training, we don't get to mix it up as much as other people do, or like do every single body part, like, bikini competitors who train zero arms or train zero, back, whatever it is. And yeah, like you said, we're doing on repeat glute
Yeah.
bridges 3 times a week or whatever it is. So it can be a little dull at times. So mentally just, making it fun somehow or just being able to stick through that. I
Yeah, I
agree.
think that's an important thing to talk about too, because one of the bigger transitions that people will kind of don't understand in when they're getting into the sport of bikini is, and that's something that I'll get complaints about too from clients once in a while. They'll be like, yeah, I just want a new workout this week. Like every week they want a new workout because they're used to that. Because like
Right.
in health and fitness,
Yeah.
yeah, you switch it up. You go to a CrossFit gym and it's a new workout every day. But I'm like, you need to
Yeah.
understand the funneling of what you're doing is so funneled that you really are, there's really very few exercises to select from. You're not going to do your
Hmm.
chest. Some are going to do their back. Some aren't going to do their back. Some aren't going to do their arms. So, so like
Yeah.
you get it done, but everyone's doing their hamstrings and their glutes, right? And they're doing
Yes.
it
Oh,
in accession, right? Like who's not, right?
yeah.
So it's like,
Yeah.
okay, so you have glute exercise. You got to do those every other day. What are the glute exercises? Okay. It's the things you think of: glute bridges, hip
Yeah.
thrusts, kickbacks, abductions, right? Like it's all those things. You're like, yeah, you're going to do those all the time. Like that's how it's going to
Yeah.
go. You're in the bikini sculpting stage now for sport. It's not
Yeah.
health and fitness. So I think it's good that
Right.
you brought that up because it is kind of mundane, unfortunately, it's
It
not
can
a
be for
whole
sure.
lot to mix up within those exercises at the volume and frequency that you're doing them at, because you're doing such high volume, you also have to do those exercises all the time because it's like you just do one
Right.
a week. You have to do one every time you work out 3 times a week. So it's
Over and over and over.
yeah,
It's like Groundhog's Day a little bit.
yeah, exactly. That's actually like the best way of putting it. Bikini training is kind of like Groundhog Day, like on a every other day format. That's
Yeah,
pretty
totally.
funny. So as far as like the training stuff goes, how are you? You talk about obviously that is a tough thing. It's repetitive. It is mundane a little bit. How are you finding ways to
Hmm.
keep it fun for you and able to go through it with the longevity of it? Because I do run into that with athletes too, where they have those issues
Right.
and they kind of time out. They're like, I just want to do something. Like I got frustrated and bored because I'm doing like legs again and legs again and glutes again. So how do you find ways of keeping it fun and entertaining for you?
Right. I actually am a membership at a couple different gyms. So sometimes if I've been going to one gym for like say a week and I'm like, oh, I just can't picture walking in that door right now, I'll just go to the other gym. And for some exercises, like I love to go to a certain gym for glute day, and then I'll go to the other gym for upper body day. Or if I don't want to talk to anyone today, I'm going to this gym because nobody knows me here. Or, if I feel like being social, I'll go to the other gym. So like having a variety or options is always great. With that too, different gyms have different pieces of equipment. So maybe I'm doing the gluteator over here, but I'm doing like, I don't know, a different piece of equipment, same abduction movement, just like a different style of equipment or something. So mixing up the gym, mixing up the equipment, that usually helps me.
Okay.
And I might be an outlier, but okay, well, it's probably just because I've been in prep for such a long time. I'm actually genuinely excited to like grow and push weights right now.
Good.
So I want to go to the gym every day because I want to see growth?
Yeah, that's cool. And so so having a time-based goal, that's a good one for people. But also I like that you brought
Yeah.
up going to all these different gyms because I do the same thing. I think out
Yeah.
here I have 5 memberships and I have my own gym. So and I used to go like, this is a good chest gym, this is a good back gym. And then there's like
Yeah.
the fun gym where it's like I could see Gavin at Fit Club. It's a, if you know Fit Club, you've been there.
Yeah,
That one's
I've
really
seen it.
fun. Yeah, I'm really friends with the owner and everyone's always there. So it's just like, yeah, the
Nice.
socials and whatnot too. So good.
Yeah,
That's a good tip for
that
people out there.
that helps.
Yeah, no, it definitely helps. And then with you saying that you're going to be in a growth phase, that brings up another good point for your career going on, because obviously I started doing the bikini reviews again
Hmm.
this year, and your name kept coming up. So I was happy that your name kept coming up. Sorry that your name kept coming up too. You were just in so many
No,
shows.
I love
You were
it.
in so I was like, okay, well here she is
No,
again,
that's
just talking
awesome.
about Lana again. Uh,
Yeah,
no, it was great.
totally.
And I really love that you did. So one of the things that I was always saying with your physique is like the lines are there, the beauty's there, like everything's there in your physique, the flow is there. And it was just a matter of adding just a little bit more muscle. Now, obviously, we know you can make improvements while you're in a slight caloric deficit, but when you're getting ready from show to show, especially with those peak weeks, it's really hard to
Yeah.
continue the growth. So I think so something that you want to talk about, I don't know if you can kind of give any advice during the cutting periods of still trying to make improvements. How were you able to do
Mm-hmm.
it? What was the biggest hindrance? Was it like the workout intensity? Was the calories not there to support it? Did you make decent improvements? Like, how was your experience with that?
Yeah. So, kind of like you're saying, like if you, for example, in April, I did 4 shows in 5 weeks. So April had 5 weekends in it. So I ended up going from Clash to Wasatch, no, Clash to Sack to Wasatch to Girl Power.
Dang.
So when you're peaking back to back to back to back, you're missing out on some intense workouts. And you're also, or I am, like linear loading. So I'm depleting at the beginning of the week. And so, more cardio, less calories or carbs, and then increasing the carbs and decreasing the cardio going into the show. So, you're depleting and then you're carving up and then you're missing some intense workouts. So, like you were kind of mentioning, it is hard to technically be building in those back to back peak weeks. You're more just like, can I hold on to every ounce of muscle I have right now and just try to keep your intensity in all of your workouts? So that was always my goal. Like, even though I'm, going into a peak week, going into a show, keep my intensity in the gym, use every bit of calories that I'm getting to push this weight and be intentional and not just go through the motions. Um, and then back to more of what you asked, was I able to improve while still doing, I kind of call it I did a spring session and then a fall session of shows. And from beginning to end, if you look at my pictures from the Clash all the way till the Olympia, I was able to improve my look. Um, in all aspects. So not just like my muscles or anything like that, but my posing got better. How I pose in my back pose showed off my upper outer glute more by the end of Olympia. I was able to figure that out. My tan, my look, my hair, like the whole thing all together was able to, including my muscle density from beginning to end, even though, mostly being in like a maintenance or even a deficit phase.
Yeah, and I think that's important too for people to see that, because that's something that I guess if you were to look at, how I do my preps and I try to keep people lean for most of the time, for most of the year, that's something that, is kind of obvious, especially with like Ashley being such a kind of known athlete and competing all the time. You could see those improvements, slightly year over year. As the time goes on, you can make improvements if you're competing often. You can make those slight improvements. Now, the time where I've ran into issues is the back to back to backs. It seems to be, for me at least, with my athletes, is that the third show in a row, like the third peak week in a row, it starts being really hard for them to have that density and fullness, and just to keep it. And it's usually because we're taking it kind of easy during peak week to keep the inflammation down and whatnot. So as the third peak week in a row comes in, that's when you start seeing, you're like, oh, she's getting a little bit like almost as the density's kind of gone, like the muscle just won't fill up with glycogen type of thing, because the workout intensity isn't there. So that's kind of what I ran into, is at that 3 week window, that third in a row. So it's a difficult one
Mm-hmm.
when you're going back to back to back. But I do think that people need to hear that. Yeah, you can still make improvements. You can still build muscle when you are, losing body fat. I think that something people need to understand is that the more aggressive you are at losing that body fat, the less likely you're going to be to build muscle. So I think how you said,
Yeah.
going into those phases of maintenance, kind of where it's like a recomp with a little bit of emphasis on leaning out, but still having enough energy to work out hard, is the difference between those two within from show to show. I don't know if yours approach was any different than that, but that's kind of how I approach
Right.
it.
Yeah, there was a point in like my spring season where after I did Clash and Sacramento, I was doing zero cardio for Wasatch and Girl Power. I was just like burning through all my, everything I was eating, and I didn't need any more steps, anything like that. So another point to be made too is like every prep literally is different. you know I might be doing more cardio for this one over here, but there's been times where I'm doing zero cardio, just burning through all my food and just trying to stay full or whatever.
Yeah, I think that's really important to talk about too. Cause I think people sometimes, it's funny because when I was younger as like a trainer, I would always try to create this like ultimate peak week for people. And I was like, oh,
Mhm.
this one worked great. We're just going to use this one from now on. Right. Like that type of thing. And then you even try to do that same one and it's a totally different scenario. And it's like,
Yeah.
there's no such thing. Like you're never going to find your perfect peak week. It's
No.
just give up on it. You kind of get an idea of what might happen for that person.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, just like you said, like no cardio going into shows. I remember, um, let's see, Phoebe going into the Olympia, like we pulled way back
Mhm.
on cardio. Like I was like, oh, we're going to grind. Every prep's been a grind. Going into the Arnold, she was doing crazy cardio. Going to Olympia, she
Mhm.
was down to like 20 minutes a day. And
Yeah.
it was like some days I was like, yeah, just don't do cardio this weekend. Check in on Monday. It was like,
Yeah.
she's like, what's, she's like, for her, she was like, but I'm doing the Olympia. Like, I'm like, I
I know.
promise you're going to do fine. Like you're ahead. That's
Yeah.
why we're having this conversation. And then I think, there's been a couple like that for Ashley too, where she just didn't do any. And it's like, it doesn't make any sense when that happens. It's just the body, you just always got to go
Yeah.
based on how the
No.
body's responding,
Mm-mm.
So that's why I like people checking in like all year. You check in all year too? You do an all year check-in type
Yes.
thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
good. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And
think we have like a similar system.
yeah, we're not too far off. We're not too far off. I talk to Paul a lot, and we're actually
Hmm.
a lot of similar like ideologies and whatnot. And then so as far as like you checking in, keeping accountable, I think that's the most important thing for people is just always, stay accountable, stay checking in, make that keeps you like, people don't understand how much that keeps them in check, having to send that weight and pictures and measurements in on that week. It's like, it's almost like you got to face the music,
I know.
every whatever day you check in,
You do. Oh,
you're like, all right, I messed
it
up.
helps so much.
Yeah. So
I know you're like, oh, don't look at me, coach.
it's better to know though. As a coach, it's better to know. So
Yeah.
okay, so we went through the whole season. We're watching you compete. You're grinding, and it's funny is that like
Mhm.
I talked to Hannah in the last interview, and then
Mhm.
I told her I was like, your story is kind of like Lana's story, and then you finally won, and
Yeah.
everyone was like, she did it, like she did it, yeah.
I
So
know.
there were so many where I was like, oh, she's gonna get it this one. She's gonna get this one. Like I think I predicted you 2 or 3 times going into shows, like, oh, that's
Mhm.
hers for sure. The momentum's there.
Yeah.
Like all the judges know who she is. She's not gonna get missed at this point. And the just who the competition was. And then something
Right.
you ended up with like how many seconds did you get last year?
3 in a row.
That's what it was. That's what it yeah.
3 in a row. And you know what happened is every time an Olympian jumped in and so basically the 3 in a row started with Legion. I did Legion, of course, because it's in Reno and that's really close to me. And did at the time, I didn't even realize it was like the next tier show, like it was like a tier something. So I hadn't done one of those yet. And I signed up and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Like there's no like crazy Olympia names on here. Like, this could be good for me. And then Jordan jumped in. And then I got second. I was still stoked though. That was the
Yeah.
best placing I've ever had. And that gave me 6 points. So then I was like, wow, I think I'm really in the running for this whole point game thing, this whole point situation. Getting those 6 points really kind of changed how I was thinking of Olympia. And then so I went on to the next one. And the next one was it San Antonio? Yeah, the next one was San Antonio. And again, there was like only like one Olympian in there. And so I thought, okay, maybe this will be my show. And Alexandra ended up taking that show. Um, so I got second again. And then I got my feedback from Sandy and I was like, Sandy, I'm really making a run for the O. Like that's my goal. What do you think? And she's like, well, come in a little bit tighter and I'll see you at Phoenix. And I'm like, okay, coach, I gotta go to Phoenix. We're going to Phoenix. And again, no Olympians on the list. And then the day before, the night, I'm at check-ins and I see Jordan and I was like, that's funny. She's not on the list. And she was on the list. They just hadn't like printed it or like rewrote it or anything. And she was checking in with me and I was like, ah, dang it. And I ended up getting second again with Jordan, who got first. And so that was my 3 seconds in a row.
Well, that was a good run though. That was fun. We got a lot of
Yeah,
everyone was cheering for you though. You're definitely were one of the crowd favorites because I was cheering for you too.
I
Because
know.
ever since we went to because we went to dinner with everyone like your group after
Girl power.
nationals. Girl power.
Girl
Okay.
power. Yeah, I think it was
Yeah.
girl power.
Yeah. And I was like, you were just you and your husband, right? He's your husband.
Yep, yep.
Uh,
Hmm.
I was like, I just really like her. Like, I want her to do well. Like, I like
I
her
know.
person, like her person. You know, it's funny because
Thank you.
I'm always in my zone when I'm at shows, so I don't get to meet too many people. I'm always
Yeah.
like focusing on my person that I have there. And like, I don't really just go back and just like strut up conversations, you know?
Right,
So when you
right.
get to know someone, you're like, you all of a sudden you're like, I want her to do good, you know, like I don't get
I
to, you know,
know.
so,
Yeah.
but I do think no matter what, no matter, and this is goes for any athlete, any coach, even my athletes, the more shows you do, if you still need to grow, you are hindering that a little bit. And I think
Right.
that this year with you taking some time to grow, like you're going to
Yeah.
pop on the scene and I have like zero doubt you're going to get a win this year. Like the lines are
Right.
already there. It was just a little bit of muscle that you needed to get
Right.
there. And I don't think,
Yeah.
you know, it's just part of it. It's just, you know, the optimal way of growing is to be in a very slight surplus, right? So we all know
Yeah.
that. And so I think that you having that time and actually giving your body a rest, which is nice because you're kind of in like a forced rest right now since there's no
Yeah,
shows right now.
definitely.
So and when
Definitely. It's perfect timing.
yeah, and I don't want to put your plans on blast if you don't want to, but do you have a plan? I don't want to say a show, but like a time frame when you want to come back?
Sure. I'm gonna take the most amount of time possible to reverse and grow. Um, there's a option where I don't even try to go to Olympia this year. So we'll see how everything goes and grows. And if, if if everything's looking good, maybe will try to make the Olympia this year, but I'm also okay with not and just coming in hot for 2024 and taking that route too.
It's crazy that that's a thing in bikini now even, right? Like you have to take a whole year off
Yeah.
to like to grow. This is
Yeah.
someone who just qualified for the Olympia. Yeah, it's crazy that like the muscularity demands of bikini now are like there's a lot of girls doing it. There's a lot of pros taking the whole
Right.
year off, you know? I mean, Lauren would be one of them too, who took like the whole year
Mhm.
off to grow. She was a 10th at the Olympia
Yeah.
last Olympia, not last two Olympias ago, or I guess you'd say now 2021. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's crazy to think like, yeah, maybe I'm taking a whole year off to grow and get back on stage.
I believe she's even taking off this year as well.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
she's
don't think she has any from her YouTube. I don't think she has plans to
yeah, that's wild.
go this year.
She's one that if they ever had like that, it's funny because we were talking about at one point if they did like in the UK there was this thing called Bikini Tone, I think it was Bikini Tone, but there was another one
Mm,
called Bikini Beach, you know, which was a few years back
yeah.
where they had basically the difference between our NPC, which would be considered like bikini athletic versus bikini beach. I
Mm-hmm.
was like, she would be like the perfect candidate for like bikini beach. The lines, the curves, like that type of thing, like a Hannah
Totally.
too.
Yeah.
You know, like the lines,
Yeah.
the curves, the roundness without the density, kind of like 2000,
Right.
you know, like 12 bikini, 2014
Right.
bikini type of thing, right? So yeah, that would be like the perfect candidate for it, right? So
Totally.
um, but yeah, it's funny to hear this thing because bikini now it's a full on, you know, it's bodybuilding. It's bikini
Yeah,
bodybuilding.
you
You're
have to
taking
take time off to grow.
yeah. It's funny because I'll get girls that want to do a show and they're like, yeah, I want to do a show. And like sometimes you get girls, they just have no idea, you know, how and I think I always want to, you know, I always want bikini to be competitive. I always think it should take a good amount of time. It should only be for people who are elite in the gym, you know, and actually put in a ton of effort to get there because otherwise it'd be too easy, right? But it's funny sometimes I'll have a girl
Right.
and she'll be like, yeah, I want to do this show in April, and it's like I'll get that email today, which is like January, and I'm like, wait, how long have
Right.
you been lifting? She's like, yeah, I joined the gym like in like June. I'm taking it pretty serious. And I'm like, yeah, that's you need like I'll see you in 2024. Like you need a lot of size to compete.
Yeah.
It's a full-on
Right.
bodybuilding show now. It's just bikini bodybuilding. It's just a different form of it now.
Yeah.
Versus before it was like bikini fitness model. Now it's bikini bodybuilding fitness model. Still fitness model, but just a
Agreed.
little bit more jacked. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, I think
Everyone in the top is so like muscularly dense. They have the density to their muscles. It's not, you know, yeah.
yeah, it's the top ones are they're pushing the density to the point where it's still not grainy, where it's like that pretty, I call it pretty muscle. You know, it's got that nice shine
Hmm.
to it, that skin texture to it, where
Right.
it's not like rippling muscles and it's just like a
Yeah.
soft glow, but hard. And
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
it takes some years to get that density look without getting overly dense. And then you have to be careful going too far with it, you know? So yeah,
I know.
it's fun though. I like bikini because it forces like as an I'm like I went to people don't know I went to school for photography too. And I loved,
Did you?
yeah, I went to school for everything. I mean, I went to like, so
Okay.
in, California, how they have like the school for like, so when I was older, when I was already out of school, I would jump into classes like, I did cabinet making, I did metal, I did
Oh,
photography for 2 years.
okay.
And so like every year I would jump into just like two classes at like a community college or
Nice.
whatever like the specialty was of their schools. And so, but I really liked the
Yeah, yeah.
photography one and the arts of those. So I like went into those for like 2 years or 2.5 years. I just was always
Mhm.
doing like two classes every semester. I don't know how many useless units I have
That's awesome.
because in California it was like $130 for like a class. Like if you're from California, at the
Mhm.
it's like it was like $35 a unit
Yeah,
back in, whatever it was. So I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna do it. It's fun. It's a fun class.
that's
I don't
cheap.
care what grade I get, I'm just having fun. And so I liked the art part of it. And
Yeah.
I think that those two for me kind of merged and like bodybuilding, but then the art form of bodybuilding of it kind of allows me to do what I see,
Yes.
which is bikini as a coach. It's like, okay, I think this structure should look like this. And it's like an art form versus like bodybuilding. It's like,
Right.
you need to get bigger, you need to get leaner, you need to get more symmetrical. And it's very like, it's harder, but it's very straightforward.
Yeah.
With bikini, it's like, no, you need this because of this. And this is like my vision. And I think I'm right. It's like, and the better, and
Mhm.
it's funny is because like there's a lot more deciphering at the top level with like the coaches than there is in like the other divisions. It's like, because they're all putting out
Yeah.
the same goal. Our goals are vision, right? So it's different. So I do
Right.
like that about it the most. So it's really fun. And I hope it never goes away from that. This is good for that structured type of scenario. I like that part of it the most.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, just, like, seeing that different structures can do well is so helpful for people aspiring to be at the top, because we can't all look like Issa with Issa's waist. Do
Who
you know what
looks
I
like
mean?
Issa? Yeah.
So by having different I don't know. I'm
Dude,
like, who can aspire to be that?
yeah.
We can't. Only Issa can. So obviously she's beautiful, stunning, amazing, but seeing different body structures win is inspiring for other people who might not have the smallest waist or might not have the biggest clavicles or like whatever it is.
Yeah, I think that's really an important thing to talk about too. That's really cool that you brought that up because if you look at the top five, the structures are totally different just in the top five alone. You have Maureen, who's 5 foot tall, super bubbly, a little bit softer, a little bit ribby, honestly, for a Olympia champion, a little bit ribby. Like, some girls
Yeah.
have that and
Yeah.
they're like, I have like these ribs that pop out a little bit. I'm like, so does Miss Olympia. Who cares? Like,
Yeah.
then you have Jennifer, who's a little bottom heavy.
Hold on. I was so excited when she won because I'm a rib girl.
Are you? Okay, yeah. There's some girls that just there's nothing you can do with your torso. Like you're shorter, if you try to stretch up to hang, your
I
ribs are
know.
gonna
What am I gonna do? Chop my bones off? I don't know.
fall. So yeah, so like, and then you have Jennifer, who's a little bit bottom heavy, right? Not the hardest girl in the off season, gets a little bit softer in the off season, more of a medium structure, right? And so
Mhm.
that's a really good inspiring thing. And then you have
Right.
Ashley, who's pretty much balanced from top to bottom, more athletic structure, but really
Yep.
petite. She's the smallest,
Yeah.
and probably like structure wise, is she the smallest in the like bone structure wise in the top 10,
I
maybe?
think I think so, yeah.
Right? So, yeah, so, like, that's you're more petite girl, bone structure-wise.
Right.
Then you have, like,
Mhm.
we have Laura Lee, who's obviously more muscular, taller, right? You have the
Yep.
tall girls that are doing well. You have
Yeah.
a Maureen and an Amy for the short girls doing great. Amy
Right.
with the more muscle and the more density and the wider glutes. Like, it's cool to see, like, all the
Mhm.
different, structures and how everyone is just totally, totally different? So, yeah, I think that's
With all those options, girls these days can just find somebody that's like, that they align with and just make that their goal, you know?
Yeah, and I think that it's funny, you'll get some people that are like, "Don't inspire." I'm like, "No, that's kinda how you do it." Like, you find they're like,
Yeah.
Don't look at someone and try to be like them because 'cause you'll never be like that." I'm like, "Well, you need a baseline." Like, you need, like,
Yeah,
some
yeah.
targeting
Your
system of some
inspo.
type. Yeah, your
Sure.
inspiration, right? So, yeah, I think
Totally.
especially now with, like, how social media is, you can kind of inspire to be someone structurally, and then you can
Mhm.
kinda look at them and how they're eating their food, and you can be like, "Oh, I wanna kinda diet like that." And you have some people like you're a macro person, yeah? Yeah.
Yep,
So
yep.
then you have some people that are like fully hardcore clean eating. And it's funny, like there's all
Yeah.
these different things you can choose from to try to kind of find your own way of doing things. And
Right.
everyone's different. I have some girls where they have like one macro meal per day and they have one free meal
Mhm.
per week. And then I have some girls who like
Nice.
I fight with all year about them like in their off season. And they're like, I'm just going to do my off season and eat whatever I want all the time. And I'm going to blow up. And then I'm going to call you at 16 weeks out and we're just going to grind. And all I'm going to do is eat, extra lean ground turkey and
Yeah.
asparagus. And I don't care. And I'm going to do it. And I'm like,
Oh my
I hate that you do it, but it works every time. So what am I going to say?
Yeah.
Like, so
Right. I mean, that's your choice, right?
what are you going to do? It's your job as a coach is to deal with whatever comes your way, right? To get them the best
That's
shape they
true.
can, whatever it takes. So, yes,
Yeah.
I have those ones are a little harder, but I've been realizing more and more that, as I get more into this and doing this longer and longer, I'm like, whatever they kind of tell you what works for them based on their actions, and,
Right.
and if you're trying to like force someone to do only your methods, it's probably not going to work for
Mhm.
them long term. You kind of find that medium for them. So, if you need a free
Mhm.
meal, what's the big deal? I take off 200 calories a day and give you a free meal once a week. It's,
Sure.
and it makes you feel better. It makes you mentally better. You're having a meal with your
Yeah.
husband. Why not? You don't have to be so hardcore about it, which I do like that people have that exposure where it's like, now I can see Lana, um, having a macro. I could see whatever, Laura Lee eating on during her off season, having her foods that she likes, right? Things like that. So it
Mhm.
kind of gives everyone that kind of find that happy medium of what's going to work for
Yeah.
them. Because you got to find what works for you. And I always say that too. Like
Totally.
a good diet is the best diet is one you'll stick to. Then
Yeah.
there's no point of being hardcore on a diet if every time you do it, you go off for 3 days because it's so mentally tough that you just gorge on food and you mess up all your
Right.
progress, right? So I find that yeah, the happy medium for whatever's going to work for that person. So I'm glad that you kind of talk about that stuff too. So
Yeah, totally.
anyway, okay, so we're going on to the season. You're collecting points. This is where things got really interesting. And I was
Yeah.
like, I mean, there was a couple. I was like, man, I don't know. Like, I don't know if she's gonna be able to hang because she's gonna have to do every show for the rest of the year for her to make it or win one. And the rest of the shows, I don't know. The girls are coming back that are doing the
I
Olympia.
know.
So it essentially became like a points race at a certain point because all the Olympians were doing the shows. And I was like, man, because that happens at the end of the year. The girls are in shape. They want to
Yeah.
start getting momentum back. They want to start getting
Yeah.
feedback from the judges. And you get the top 20 girls like starting to do Olympia, like starting to do shows. So how does the mindset go there where you're like, okay, I'm within range? And I know you got it at the very last show, which I was super happy about. You got it at the very last show. You were within range the
Yeah.
whole time. So what's going on in your head at this time? Because I don't even
Okay.
I've been through this. So I've been through this. I couldn't even tell you how many times I've been through this. And I've been on the losing end of it by one placing in the point system 3 times. And it's freaking
That
heartbreaking, man.
sucks.
It's heartbreaking.
That
And it's
sucks so bad.
one time it happened to a girl we were beating all year, and then we lost at the show that mattered by one point.
Oh my
I've lost, yeah,
gosh.
2 people for the Olympia by 2 points and 1 point one time by points. Isn't that crazy?
That is
Like
so
not points
sad. Oh,
like in points in on the scorecard 1 or 2 points.
right,
Like,
right. I
yeah,
know.
just
Okay, so
craziness.
basically, so in those like last three shows where I was getting second, 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 it was Legion, San Antonio, Phoenix. I was like, okay, the points are up on the board. But then at that point, I was like, all right, Jody, can you just pull out a win? Or I was like, Stine, can you just win? Or Esther, can you just win? Like, if any one of the four of us would just freaking win, then all of us could stop doing the shows because we were the four that were by far ahead of anybody else. But at every show, it went the hard route or the hard option. Esther didn't win and she got second, or Stine didn't even place in the top. Jody had to come back and start competing um because we were all starting to ride on her coattails. So like every hard option, it went that way. And so it was down to Hawaii. So after I did the Sacramento show, where I ended up getting fourth, I called my coach, I talked to my family. I was like, there's one show left on the list to qualify, to put everything out there, to give it all I have, and to leave everything on the plate. Like, know that I gave every ounce of myself to this goal and just let the chips fall where they may. So we made a decision. I'm not a quitter. I've never quit anything in my life. I had to see it through to the end. And I was like, well, if I'm going to go out with a bang, it might as well be in Hawaii, right? So I booked the trip to Hawaii, and my mother-in-law, she came to support me. And so it was me and her. We were out there, and um, who is my judge? Steve, I think, was the judge out there. And, of course, Olympians were there. Lucia was there, and Sierra Swan was there, and they all Sierra Swan jumped in last minute. And what's the girl's name? I can't remember who took second. Do you know who took second?
I don't know who took
I'm
second there. No.
blanking on her name.
I don't know
Oh,
who took
she's a
second there.
Fit
Yeah.
Body Fusion girl, but she was an Olympian already too. And Jody had to do the show, or just did the show to make sure and solidify her points. So I was like, I hope I just make top call outs. And I ended up getting, I believe it was fifth there. I took fifth. And so I was like, darn, only one more point. So the whole next day I was refreshing my feed to see what was happening in Europe, because both Stine and Esther were competing in Denmark, and the time difference, and they compete on Sunday and I'm on Saturday, and I'm like, refresh, refresh. And two things needed to happen. Either Stine needed to not place like at all, or Esther needed to win, and Esther freaking won. So I made it.
So how was that? How was that moment? Like when you saw it?
Ugh. So I was out to breakfast with my mother-in-law Sunday morning, and I'm just so antsy, and I'm literally on my phone just refreshing my feed. And as soon as it refreshed and I saw Esther holding up like her Olympia qualification, I started jumping up and down. I like got the chills, and I called my coach first thing, and I was like, "We're going to the like I made it." And then I called my husband and my mom, and oh, it was so cute. When I called my mom, she literally was screaming, like squealing. So it was like I won the lottery. Because she knows everything that I've been through this past year, and every show and every prep and every little thing. She just was screaming for like probably a whole solid minute. And then she started crying. It was so cute.
That's cool. That's a great story. And I remember, so yeah, you were one of the ones I was just really like happy that it happened. I was actually happy for all four because I was like, the only way, and it was funny because I was shooting video, Arthur's in here and we kept talking about it. Like, cause you were like brought up like every week because you were doing so many shows. And I was like,
Yeah.
man, this girl's like
Yeah.
grinding. Like just the budget to do these, like all these shows must have been just
Right.
crazy this year. Hawaii and all these different
No,
shows and travel and
absolutely.
hotels and whatnot. And I was like, man,
Yeah.
like I really hope Esther wins because then they can all just go. Like it would be great. And then like no one's
Yeah.
out. Because I've been on that out. I've been on that when it was 10. I've been 11th or 12th. I've been in there. And it's
Right.
like a punch in the gut, to everyone. And so
Yeah.
yeah, it was really cool to see you do it. And then what's really cool, um, you don't even know this, but when you came back from backstage at the Olympia and like you came out of the curtain and
Uh-huh.
you're like, I think you said top 36 in the world. I'm cool with that. I'm super happy with that. You can somewhere in the range. Like that's,
I
I don't know who
did.
you
Yeah.
told, but like you walked past me and were like ecstatic about it.
I was like,
And I was
"Woo!"
like, yeah. And I was like, that's what it's about right there. Like
Yeah,
celebrate your personal success, celebrate
totally.
your personal best.
It
And
absolutely was my personal, truly my personal best to date. I looked the best I have ever looked on Olympia Day. And if that isn't a freaking win, then I don't know what is. Because I know girls who showed up to Olympia and it's not your personal best. And how does that make you feel?
yeah, it's tough.
Not good.
It's tough. I've been there. Not myself, but
Yeah.
like with athletes where it's like, oh, you were a little better at that one show, that type of
Oh,
thing. It's tough, that's where you want
yeah,
to,
it is. But I
yeah.
was so happy. I was honored, grateful. All the work paid off in the end, and just my people were there supporting me, and just to have that experience, I'll never forget.
Yeah, that's really cool. It's a really cool thing. Even if hopefully you go to many, many more, but this one, the experience, you're probably
Yeah.
never going to like have that joy of getting there the way you did like ever again. It's
No.
just something about the
Yeah.
journey is going to be so worth it to you when you tell your family one day about it and all that. It's going to be like,
Right.
I did this, and it's a cool thing to see. It was a cool thing to witness, too.
Yeah.
It was like my side hobby throughout the year. I
Yeah.
was like, I want to do this weekend. Like, I want to do this weekend. It was like a fun thing. Every year there's always that like one.
I know.
And the year that Hannah did it, she
Oh
like
no.
go ahead. Sorry. Oh, the year
Oh,
that
sorry.
like
I was
Hannah.
gonna say, oh no, we won't have to experience that this year though, because there's no more points. So we're not gonna be seeing people duke it out and like keep
No.
going for it, you know?
Yeah, it's weird when there's no points. I don't know how it's gonna happen with the no points thing. I do think it's good. It's good and it's bad. It doesn't eliminate that many people from the Olympia, so it doesn't really
Right.
matter that much. But
Yeah,
um it does keep people who shouldn't be competing all the time competing all the time. Like you are
that's true.
always placing, but there's always those girls who are like in the top 10 somewhere and they just
Yeah,
don't stop, but they're still not placing. Like sometimes they'll get eighth, sometimes they'll get fifth, and they're like doing every show
right.
and no one kind of knows who they are. But those girls, I
Yeah,
think that it'll be better for them and healthier for them because they're going to be like, look, I'm the best I've ever done is fifth. Like I need to stop doing these shows where I'm getting like ninth to
right.
fifth. Like I'm
For,
not going
for
to get
sure.
there point wise because you need to win, so at least it does that for them. And I think that
Right.
it basically encourages girls to peak, to be their best and not do as many shows who maybe should be taking time off or
Yeah.
whatever, which is, I don't know, maybe that motivates you as part of your reason for not competing as much this year too. I don't know.
For sure. I want to come back and I want to be somebody that A, they're going to be like, "Oh, Lana the Olympian." And B, they're going to be like, "Oh yeah, she has all the good she needs. She's ready to win a show." Not, you know, toss a coin and we'll see who gets this show or something like that.
I think we'll see you this year. I don't think, you're relatively new to doing so many shows.
Yeah.
I have a ton of, a lot of experience with athletes doing a ton of shows back to back to back for years on end. I think
Mhm.
you're going to be surprised with how fast you grow. I think,
That's what yeah, I'm
yeah.
curious to find out, you know?
Yeah, once it's kind of like collecting interest, right? You're like you have all this interest waiting to accrue and it like has to hit a certain amount of days. And you've been doing the workouts but you haven't been eating the food.
Right.
You've been doing the workouts but you haven't had the adequate recovery system because you've been so dieted
Mhm.
down, and then all of a sudden
Yeah.
that CD hits its timeline and you cash in on all that time, and it just kind of comes forward when you get those calories in for a few months and rest. And I think you'll grow surprisingly quick based on
Mhm.
based on how you grew this year with you being in a deficit. I can't imagine you not growing, probably close to twice as fast while being in a surplus and having adequate rest and not peaking from show to show every week 13 times, 14 times in a year. So it just, yeah, I think we'll see you. I'm hoping we see you in a June timeframe. That's my guess when you start thinking about it. But my best wishes for you and that season, you and Paul there. I'll be rooting for you.
Yes.
I'll be rooting for you
Thank you.
every time one of my girls isn't competing against you.
Ah!
And then I'll be
Thank you,
rooting for you to
Adam.
get second any other time.
Ah! Thank you.
Yeah. So anyway, with that, I guess we'll leave it here. But how do people find you on Instagram and everything? Do you have YouTube?
Yeah, yeah. So, I do have YouTube. I'm here and there with it, but I do film all of my show vlogs. So that being said, I have like 5 shows that I have not posted and I'm still working on. So I do have YouTube. It's just Lana Dunbar, I believe. And then I have my Instagram. I am just pulling up, make sure I say it right. It's IFPro_Lana. And I do have TikTok. I'm not really super active on TikTok though. But yeah, you can catch me on Instagram mostly.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you very much for your time. Hey, Arthur, can you bring her? Um,
Oh, the
thank you.
dog.
Yeah, you got to see her. Thank you for your
Yeah,
time. This is
of course.
Pippi, Pippi the puppy,
Let's see Pippi.
Pippi the puppy. She says bye.
Oh, oh my gosh, she's so cute. This is your new baby.
Yes, yes, this is my
She's
daughter.
adorable. Is she still mad at me? Pippi, don't be mad.
Yeah, why are you mad? You're being so jealous. So
She's so cute.
anyway, she was the one barking at you. So anyway, thank you so much
Yeah.
for everything, and great talking to you. And we'll talk to you next time.